This thrilling story happened before I was even born. I later heard from my grandmother that my grandfather was still very young at that time. The whole family lived in a small village. My grandfather was probably about 13 years old then. My grandfather's name was Shan, and he had an honest disposition. One day, Mr. Shan was asked by his father, my great-grandfather, to deliver cakes to an acquaintance. On the way back, Mr. Shan suddenly saw something glimmering on the side of the road. That was also the first time my grandfather saw the strange thing. My grandfather crept along the grass to take a closer look inside. It turned out that the thing that flashed was a big snake with its whole body in a pure white color. Its eyes were bloodshot, but for some reason, it just lay there unresponsive. Looking closer, the snake still had a lot of blood. It looked tired and exhausted. Although seeing a snake with such a strange color for the first time, he was a bit scared. Mr. Shan still used a dry wooden branch and tried to touch it. It just lay there and had no intention of attacking my grandfather. So with his honesty, he decided to help the snake. Mr. Shan carefully lifted the snake with a branch, then slowly put it into a basket. He didn't even forget to put a cloth over it, afraid that other people would be afraid to stop him. Mr. Shan was careful, moving little by little, carrying the heavy basket home. He thought long and hard and decided to go to the kitchen. Looking around, Mr. Shan saw a large jar in the corner of the kitchen. It was his home's water storage jar for when it rained. This jar was the only one big enough to hold the snake. For some reason, he felt a connection with the animal. It was also very gentle, not intending to attack him. After putting it in the jar of water, he did not forget to tell it to be obedient there before closing the lid. And so, in the days that followed, he took great care of the white snake. In the countryside, each family had a few hens that lay eggs. Every day he would sneak out and get some eggs for the snake. He was caught by his mother many times, but he still tried to hide the fact that he kept a snake in the house. Every day my great-grandmother wondered why the eggs in the barn kept disappearing, strangely enough. She thought it might be because the hens refused to lay eggs. But Mr. Shan did not even notice his mother. He still tried to take care of this beloved animal. Every day a few eggs would be taken so that the snake would gradually heal its wound. One day, like every other day, my grandfather ran as fast as he could into the kitchen, hiding some eggs in his shirt. However, when he opened the lid of the water jar, he was extremely alarmed because the beloved snake he had worked so hard to take care of for nearly 2 months had disappeared. In the jar, now only the eggshells were left. Mr. Shan burst into tears, not wanting to make his parents know what was happening. A few years later, he accidentally saw that the old white snake had returned, and it seemed to be much bigger, but the snake never appeared completely. It only peeked behind objects in the house. Even my great-grandmother saw it appear on the ceiling several times. She was a little worried, not knowing what purpose a snake had coming back here. So during a meal, my great-grandmother and my great-grandfather had a discussion about the snake. She said that it appeared more and more in the house and it was getting bigger and bigger. She was afraid that something bad would happen. My great-grandfather didn't think so. He decided to bring some cake after dinner and went to find a famous shaman in the village to ask him about this matter. After arriving at the place, my great-grandfather narrated the incident to the shaman. The shaman also pondered for a long time, pressing something incomprehensible in his hand. In the end, he said this thing was a great blessing and not a bad thing or a bad omen at all. After listening to him, my great-grandfather was delighted and asked the shaman for more details. The shaman said snakes were sentient beings and this snake was not an ordinary snake. The snake decided to follow my grandfather and bless him, so the shaman asked my great-grandfather to come home and build a small altar for the snake. After that, my great-grandfather did a good job. The crop was abundant and the snake rarely appeared in the house. A long time after that, my grandfather's family also made an unexpected fortune, building the most spacious house in the village. The whole family wondered if it was related to the snake or not. At the time, my grandfather was also an adult and married. His work and study path were also extremely favorable. That year, unfortunately, bandits from the mountain would often come down to the village to disturb the peace and plunder. They did not stop there. They would even kill innocent villagers. Because they were in a remote area, bandits hardly respected anyone, and of course, the place they were aiming for was my grandfather's house, since the house looked the biggest in the village. There were bound to be plenty of things for them to rob, they thought. After a few minutes of probing, bandits decided to ride their horses and stormed inside. Big strong horses broke through the gate. They used guns to shoot many times into the night sky, making everyone afraid. They then arrested Mr. Shan's family and threatened them with guns. Although Mr. Shan was angry, there was nothing he could do. Mr. Shan got angry and told the bandits they could take everything in the house but leave his family alone. After hearing this, the bandits showed a proud smile. But of course, they were a bunch of bottomless feeders with greed. The bandits not only wanted to rob, but also saw that my grandmother was beautiful at that time, so they desired her. Seeing the bandits touching his wife, my grandfather tried to resist and shoved his hand away, but only received a blow from hell. Then one of them overpowered him with a gun, and two more forced my grandmother and another female into a room. Seeing his wife being bullied without being able to do anything, my grandfather became angry. He howled and cursed at them for being assholes, but they seemed to feel proud about it. One of the bandits would hit him on the head with the handle of a gun, causing him immense pain. They felt that he had a lot of annoying words to say, so they surrounded him and kicked him repeatedly with their feet. Because of an honest farmer like Mr. Shan, he could only hold his head in battle. Suddenly, from inside the room, a high-pitched scream made the bandits outside also stop in their tracks. Then, the bandit who forced my grandmother into the room was pushed out by something so strongly that he flew through the air as well as the window. The other bad guys gathered around him and saw that his whole body seemed to be crumbling and becoming horribly deformed. This scene made the rest of them start to panic because, of course, women couldn't do this to a man. They gathered and raised their guns in defense and then slowly entered the room. They carefully opened the door and gently stepped inside because they knew that the normal person couldn't break another one's limbs so easily. The villagers around now dared to approach and help my grandfather up. His face was covered in blood and he didn't know what was happening inside his house. Another scream rang out, and my grandmother and the maid rushed out and were not heard at all. My grandfather, Mr. Shan, insisted that his wife would be beside him. My grandmother was still scared, but she also told him that a large white snake had appeared and killed all the bandits. That's right, the old white snake had returned. Now it was a large monster. It must have been more than 10 meters long. It used its tail to wrap tightly around the necks of the bandits, breaking their bones. When the villagers and my grandfather heard everything was quiet, they dared to come in and see the bandits' bodies lying across the floor. Everyone teamed up to dig a hole next to the forest and bury the bandits. Then, I heard my grandmother tell me that when my grandfather was old and sick and near death, he saw a young man appear in front of him. The young man was tall and had white hair and a pale skin. The young man said that he was the white snake. He explained that he was the one who was saved by my grandfather and in return wanted to protect my grandfather's family for the rest of his life. So, its altar was preserved by my grandparents and passed on to descendants. To this day, I still light incense to give thanks.